We're going to build the best football team in the SEC Conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC Conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Tyreek Cleveland! How about it? I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Pops and fires the ball over the middle. It's Story! It's Story! Got a touchdown! Story's got a touchdown! Oh, man! Story's got a touchdown!
Ahmad Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium in Gale. It's your favorite Uncle Silk.
It's Dan.
And it's Masters Week Delatory. Hello, friends.
Howdy, partner.
Is that Vern up in the tower on 16?
Yeah. There goes Nick. He's tapping in for his quadruple bogey on one.
That's a great way to
You got
start.
time? You got time to follow the Masters, bro? You got downtime now?
You create downtime for the Masters. Like it's this whole week. I watched practice rounds today. I watched practice rounds Tuesday. Got my flag up there. Can't believe I used the right finger to point to that. Got my hat on. Got another flag sitting there on the couch that needs to be hung up. It's been there. It's been part of the background for a month now.
Nick is flexing because he got to go to the Masters 3 years ago.
In 2019, was there for a practice round. Just saying, I don't know if Tiger knows that I was there, but the last time he won, I was there. And maybe he should
probably told him about you, bro.
It probably
Just
did.
Just to warn him, you know?
Yeah. Billy Horschel gave me his phone number when I podcast with him a while back, and I keep trying to tell him that I can write his biography, his autobiography, but I would probably need to go to the Masters with him and document at least a full week.
Wouldn't he need to write his own autobiography? Isn't that how autobiography?
Yeah, but you have a ghostwriter.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, we're trying to get Billy Ho on the show. We've been chatting with his people. It's just a matter of timing. Maybe after he wins the Masters this week at his 10,000 odds. But Silk, how was your weekend, buddy?
Beautiful, man. Hung out quite a bit.
You did.
Just hung out quite a bit, man. I had a good time. Went to go check out Currency twice. The plan was to see him once, but checked him out Friday in Orlando. I had him come into, not with him, his team came into the Kush House. Young Roddy, a rapper his, did a small after party event at the Kush House. So we hung out a little bit. I got an invitation to come hang out down in Fort Lauderdale with him and his people. So I went down there with the wife and a couple other friends and hung out, man. But a great show. If you haven't seen Currency with a live band, it's a treat. That was my weekend. I'm not
gonna lie. I was patiently waiting for all of your Instagram stories to pop up about that. It looked like a lot of fun. I'm not sure if you guys know this. Big Currency fan. Sprinkle that in there between Crawford and Power and Eric Church, but really like me some Currency. So that's a really cool experience.
Yeah, real dope, man. I had my stories would have been flowing a little faster, but some moments you gotta just unplug and just take in the moment. That was just like an evening. Most of my stuff got posted today and yesterday. I just wanted to just enjoy the vibes, man. Well, I had a good weekend, man. How about yourself?
Had a good weekend. My parents were in town. The weather in Tampa wasn't ideal. We had a cold front-ish come through. Had a lot of rain this weekend, but got to take them to a Lightning game. Friday, Saturday was over in St. Pete. Yesterday, took the boat out. It's a little chilly and a little windy for an ideal boating experience, but ultimately I had a great time. It's great to see my parents. Haven't seen them in a couple months now. My dad's going through a few health issues, so prayers to him.
Prayers up to Pops, man.
It was thank you. It was great to see them and shout out to my dad. I think he's the number one pimp of this podcast. All of his Florida Gator friends and people that he meets, and he's even thinking about creating business cards for us to be able to pass out about the podcast. So,
dope.
Always love and prayers to my family, but it's great seeing them. Nick, what about you, brother?
Yeah, a wedding up in Lake City. Congratulations to Andrew and Jenny. And
Professional wedding goer.
I have another wedding that I'm in this coming Saturday. So congratulations in order for Donnie and Misty.
One day it's going to be your own, Nick. You got a lot of practice, buddy.
Yeah, might just elope. Might be the move. It'll be my third wedding in 6 weeks. I got another wedding in the fall out in Aspen. That's one I'm looking forward to. A fall wedding.
The beer flows like wine, Nick.
Yeah.
If you go into these weddings, you got to get married soon. First of all, real quick, Dan, how many weddings have you been in? I'm trying to see how
many have I been in? I think I've been in probably about 12.
Great friend.
I've been in about 12. There was a time that I counted actually a few months ago because we were having a discussion about it. There was a time span from about 2016 to 2018 that I went to 39 weddings in like 2.5 years. Absolutely out of control. Most of them are still together. But that's where all of my money went for about 2.5 years. Nuts.
This will be the 5th wedding I'm in. 6th if you include being the ring bearer to a cousin's wedding when I was like 5-6 years old.
No, we won't allow that one.
Not counting that one. That's not due to friendship. That was just
they didn't know your personality yet.
I was just a cute kid, kid to put into a tux and have walk down with
you were just
with a pillow holding rings.
Yeah,
I was just an age appropriate kid. Age appropriate. That's all.
Because they got to be old enough to be like responsible, but still young enough to be cute and say, "Oh."
I don't think I was responsible. I don't think the rings were even like on the pillow. Like I was just like the ring bearer. I was like bringing a pillow up. That
you was a prop too as well. Huh?
I was a prop. Yeah, I was a wedding
Some
prop.
ring pops around there.
I was a free wedding prop.
I love that. So, how many weddings have you been in?
I think 6, man. I'm pretty sure 6. My friends don't get married, bro. These boys are just wild, man. So I'm stuck at about 6. I think mine are like mostly cousins. Friends. I'm trying to think how many friends I got married, bro. Most of these guys ain't married.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna be in your like 50s when they're hitting their cuffing season.
Sorry to hear that, man.
I wish you the best. Oh man,
about 6, man. I've been in 6 weddings.
Man. Well, boys, we got a great show ahead of us. We have Associate Athletic Director Lynda Tealer joining us for the second time. It's been about 2 years since her first appearance on the show. I had a really good time talking to her. And then we welcome for the first time a guy by the name of Jeremy Foley. So excited to chat with him and kind of see what he's been up to and his connection back to the University of Florida. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our friends over at Allen Horn Insurance, which is the title sponsor of Stadium and Gale. Visit AllenHornInsurance.com. That's ALANHORNE insurance.com, or give them a call at 706-692-2888. If you are in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, or Tennessee, give them a call. Again, 706-692-2888. Before we get too heavy into the show, Nick, we're going to be talking a lot of baseball with you before Lynda comes on the show. But do want to give a congratulations in order to the women's gymnastics program. The number 2 team won the Auburn Regional and will be heading to Fort Worth, Texas for the NCAA finals. In their second match of the weekend, they scored the 3rd highest total with a 198.775. So congratulations to them. They're currently ranked number 2 in the country, but certainly best of luck to Jenny Rowland and her squad of gymnasts that are going out to Fort Worth to hopefully take home another ship for the Florida Gators. Nick, you were wrong, buddy. You were sitting on your high horse.
Wednesday morning. It was a high horse?
No, you're sitting on your high horse Wednesday morning. The Gators had just beat FSU, routed FSU.
Shout out to that catch, man. Who caught that ball, bro?
Wyatt Langford. He did it again, Silk. He did it again on Friday night, robbed another home run.
That man kid went full Ken Griffey, dog. Shout out to him.
His one on Friday night in Athens was even more impressive.
Yeah, I ain't catch that one.
It's not surprising.
Well, it's tough to find on TV, Nick.
It was on ESPN2 Friday night.
It's tough for me to find a TV. Then it's been difficult these days. But what do you think about that kid as a prospect? He got some good pro prospects.
Yeah, so interesting. He came to Florida. He's a sophomore, so he came to Florida last year and was a catcher, and they just didn't have a spot for him. So my guy had 4 at-bats last year and was anytime a guy warmed up during a game, he was in the bullpen catching them. I jokingly asked him, how many innings did you catch in the bullpen last year? He said all of them. Couldn't put a number on it, just said every single one. So they had a spot open in the outfield. It's a position he's never played. Not that you'd be able to tell, but this is the first time he's ever played outfield.
He's snatching balls like that.
Hey, big pause. Yeah, he looks like a natural out there in the outfield. Really did a good job, kind of bulking up in the offseason. I think he's second on the team with 10 home runs right now, and second on the team in batting average, hitting .333. With 35 hits, which is also the second most on the team. So Wyatt Langford, just down the road from Trenton, Florida, country boy. I don't believe he's draft eligible as a sophomore, so you'll get another year of Wyatt Langford out there in the outfield. But he's certainly been one of the cooler stories, kind of came out of nowhere. You know, I think other than me and maybe his family and the coaching staff, nobody really knew he was on the team because he didn't get many opportunities in 2021. He's having an unbelievable start to the year. One of the few bright spots currently.
Well, so Nick, as I was saying, you were sitting high on your horse on Tuesday
I was not. I called 2-2 with a loss to FSU, and I was getting attacked on Tuesday night, saying you said Florida was going to lose this game. I said
you did, right? Yeah. So you're sitting high on your horse Tuesday. You thinking the Gators might go 3-1 on the week. You can pass over your 2-2 record that you called for the week, and unfortunately, the Gators go 0-3 against a pretty bad Georgia team. What happened, and was it the same thing that's been happening all year?
Yes, it was a pretty troubling stat. Shout out to Sam Smith. He is my unofficial statistician. Through 9 games of SEC play, Hunter Barco has an ERA of 1.80. Great ERA. The remainder of Florida's pitching staff has a combined 10.24 ERA, which is shockingly bad.
Yeah,
you don't need to know much about baseball, but if you see a 10 in the ERA category, it's not good. So because the series started on Thursday, which is all TV related, Georgia decided to keep their ace, Jonathan Cannon, on Friday. Pitchers like to get into a rhythm, and sure, once you get to the pros, you're on a 5-day schedule. But in college, if you're a Friday night starter, you're on a 6-day off day, a 6-day off schedule. You're on a pitching once a week schedule. Guys like to throw their bullpens at a certain time, do their running. So they kept him there. When Florida chose to pitch Hunter Barco on Thursday, I thought, all right, you're conceding the game to Jonathan Cannon. Like that, he's that good. If you were going to beat Cannon, you're going to need to throw Barco against him. Barco throws Thursday, doesn't factor into the decision. He only lasted 5 innings, which was the shortest outing of his career, not his career, of his season. Gives up 3, but he's not the reason they lost. Florida actually, a Judd Fabian home run in the 8th gives them a chance to win the game, and they collapse in the 9th. Typical bullpen stuff that we've seen. Saturday, you get Cannon out of the game early, but the bullpen again, not going to get the job done. Brandon Sproat actually had a really nice start. I don't believe he got the loss. He was in line for the loss for a while. Certainly didn't deserve it. And I didn't see much of the game on Saturday because I was at the wedding. But going back through it and looking at the box score, one disastrous inning where you give up, I believe, 8 runs, and Florida gets outscored pretty convincingly on Friday and Saturday against Georgia. Like you said, Dan, it's really a Georgia team that is in no threat of like hosting a regional. It's not going to be a Georgia team that's going to win the SEC or win the SEC tournament. No excuse for Florida to go up there and get swept in Athens, and you get number 2 Arkansas coming to town. So it's not like it would have been you don't get many weekends off in the SEC.
But what you're saying is it doesn't get any real easier than.
Yeah. Like playing Missouri later. Missouri's not very good, but you have to go to Missouri. That's a long trip. But yeah, like it's not going to get much easier than Georgia, Missouri. Florida's next couple series coming up. Number 2 Arkansas comes to town this weekend. Not going to be easy. Then you play Florida State. You have to travel up to Vanderbilt. They just had a hell of a time with Tennessee. Got swept by Tennessee. And then you get number 1 Tennessee coming to town, at the end of April. So the next 3 series for Florida could potentially bury the Gators before you get, even to May. You're going to have to figure out some ways to win some games there against number one Tennessee, number 2 Arkansas, or else, things could get ugly quickly.
Nick, we've got a couple minutes before Lynda comes on. I want to ask you. So I was reading some quotes by Kevin O'Sullivan, and talks and your reading or your writing as well. I know that there's a lot of very young pitchers on this team, but it seems like they're having much more of a struggle this year than in previous years, maybe over the last decade or so. Without keeping track and looking at ERAs. Now, I know this team has a lot more youngsters compared to other years where you can kind of pepper them in, but do you see any improvement? I mean, it just seems like it's kind of the case over and over and over again, where they're consistently just getting beat up, but without a lot of improvement with those innings under their belt.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, Sully will probably – he's kind of said it. He hasn't, put a blanket statement out yet, but at some point they're not freshmen anymore. Like when you a guy like Ryan Slater, who's a redshirt freshman who has been really good for Florida, he's made 10 appearances. Or do you still consider him a freshman? A guy like Nick Figueroa, a redshirt freshman but hadn't pitched until this year, he's made 15 appearances. I wouldn't consider him a freshman anymore. Blake Purnell, who's the closer, got the loss on Friday night. He's made 15 appearances. And when you start looking at, I guess, the appearances, you can see who is trusted and who is not. Brandon Neely's a guy who is starting to get some more appearances. Philip Abner, another freshman, starting to get some more appearances. But, I'd like to see more consistency from the bullpen. The only consistency I think we're getting right now is like blown saves, walks, and hit batters. So coming into the year, 9 of the 14 pitchers available for Florida and for Kevin O'Sullivan had no college pitching experience. So yes, they were young. That was going to be an excuse, but you're looking at it now and it's okay. Well, it's April. These guys have got innings under their belt. Nick Figueroa's pitched almost 30 innings across 15 appearances.
I haven't been following the team. Clearly, you know that. So what do you think is the issue? Lack of stuff, junk, experience, speed, fastballs? Like what's the issue with pitching?
It's interesting because they're just not throwing strikes. They're walking guys, hitting guys. I don't know how, a lot of people are saying you need a new pitching coach, and I can tell right away who's not following because they have a new pitching coach, brand new this year. But I don't think it's his fault. Like you can't, you're not on the mound. You can't go and execute a pitch. You can call something based on analytics. You can call it based on, the scouting report, but you can't go out there and throw that curveball on the black. With an 0-2 count, you're not the ones that's walking guys. And like, these are talented players. It's not like Florida's not, and Kevin O'Sullivan are not pulling in really good recruiting classes. They're pulling in top 5 recruiting classes every year. These kids that are on the team were some of the most highly regarded high school baseball players in the country. So at some point you just have to, I put the blame on the players and you have to go and execute. It's a long season. There's still a bunch of games left. But like I said, looking at Florida's schedule coming up the next 3 weekends, it's really tough. And I don't think you're going to win the SEC, this week or this month, but you can certainly put yourself in such a big hole that you're out of it by the end of April.
Yeah. Well, Nick, I want to, sorry to cut you off. I do want to bring on Lynda Tealer, but before we do that, do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Visit homefieldapparel.com, use promo code Stadium and Gale, all one word, get 15% off of your order. If you are looking for about 60 different schools, including UF, where they have about 18 different products, visit homefieldapparel.com, use promo code Stadium and Gale, and get 15% off of your order. Joining us for the second time on Stadium and Gale is one of the guests that everybody talked about how great the interview was. So we're super excited to bring her back. Lynda Tealer, how are you this evening?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, Lynda, obviously, since we chatted 2 years ago, there's been a lot of change in UF coaches and, a lot of changes that you all have made, adapting to NIL and a lot of other things. So I guess overall, over the last 2 years, how has it been in the athletic department? You guys staying pretty busy?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but change, a lot of really positive things happening. And, even some of the things I think, that grab headlines and people are worried about, NIL, et cetera, at the end, they're positive. We're learning our way through, but these are good changes. So it's positive. I'm excited about where we are. I'm excited about where we're headed.
Excellent. So Lynda, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the changes that have been made? I know that you without delving too much into it, obviously Florida made 3 coaching changes at 3 of their biggest sports: women's basketball, men's basketball, and football. During those discussions about what you guys were looking for, obviously you went in-house for one of those hires, but what were you guys looking for out of the potential leads of those different teams?
Yeah, so much of it comes down to fit, because in the end, when you have a ton of talented basketball coaches or a ton of talented football coaches, they can call plays, X's and O's, they know how to recruit. But will they be a fit here? Will they be able to build the relationships with the Gator Nation? Will they be able to build relationships internally on campus with prospects and their families? Will they be a fit here? Can they embrace the challenges and the pressures and the high standards, all that comes with being here at Florida? So again, so much of it, when you get past kind of initial hurdles, is really about fit and trying to determine, are these folks going to fit here? So you talk to a ton of people, and some of it's a little bit of your gut, but who can you see in our lineup of coaches? Who looks like, they're going to be a great member of our coaching staff?
How does that process, I guess let's go with football specifically. Scott kind of worked really fast, identifying
Yep.
Billy Napier. How do you do that, I guess, in that such a short time span? And then you're also not just trying to find your coach. There's other schools that have coaching vacancies and someone that we might be battling against LSU for this, so we have to kind of work quickly. How do you work in, are they a good fit with also, well, if we take a month to do this, that we might be taking 2 months because we have to find somebody else?
For sure. And I think those are really, the time pressures for both football and the men's basketball search were, those are pretty on point. I mean, everyone sort of, their openings come available at the same time, and, they're known quantities in terms of who are really talented coaches and all that. So really that assessment comes down to talking to people that you trust, or even folks that you don't know, but are, have some insight into the candidates you're working on. So it is a ton of time just on the phone and trying to hear, what other people have to say, valuing input from a lot of different people, a lot of different areas, just getting as much information as you can and trying to make the best decision with what you have.
And about Billy's the Billy Napier coaching search specifically, how much of that was just on Scott Strickland, and how much were you guys involved when we talk about coaching hires, especially for football and men's basketball? You talk about coaching search firms or inner circles. How much, I guess, how big was the search committee for football, and I guess what was the process of, once the decision was made to move away from Dan Mullen to then looking for a new coach all the way to hiring Coach Napier?
Yeah, so I think, they are two different processes for sure. And I think they just are sort of born out of, the time available and necessity and kind of, where Scott felt like he was in sort of evaluating the pool. He got a lot of input about Billy, but I think he was more out front in terms of doing the legwork and really sort of chasing down information. And he really was the primary point on Billy Napier. And then I think with Todd Golden, we operated more as a group. We had, there were 4 or 5 of us, and we had a little bit more time, and not a lot, a little bit more time, and had more of a committee process versus, where, like I said, with Billy, Scott was really kind of the lead. Not that he didn't get input from other people, but he really was the primary driver there.
Lynda, I want to ask you about Todd Golden real quick, and then Corey, I want you to jump in. A lot of people have talked about Todd Golden from kind of a basketball perspective and an analytics perspective, but I know some people are getting a taste of Todd Golden from a little bit of the media and some press conferences and things of that nature. But what can you tell Gator fans about him as a person, maybe his personality, kind of what to expect out of the person and not just the coach?
Yeah, he is. I love hanging out with Todd. He's really down to earth, a good person, and he is genuinely interested in building relationships and connecting with Gator fans, Gator Nation, other people in the department. I mean, that you can tell it's a sincere desire of his. It's sincere in his approach. He's kind of what you see is what you get. He's just very real and has a ton of energy, super enthusiastic. He talked about, being grateful in his press conference. That's one of his really core values as it comes to his team and all that. And I think you get that vibe when you talk with him. Like, he is genuinely grateful for this opportunity and everything that comes with it. So I love hanging with Todd.
Lynda, what do you think about the future of NIL and as it pertains to the University of Florida? I know a lot of the fans have a lot of questions about activity or inactivity. What do you think about the future of it?
Yeah, we all have a lot of questions, and it's just going to sort of evolve. So my general take here is that we're going to land in a spot where student athletes are going to have the freedom to make some money on endorsement deals or other, sort of NIL activities, social media and whatnot. But it's really going to get, it's going to be more defined. It's going to be less scary. It's not going to be, this, I don't think all of our worst fears are going to be realized here. I think it'll just be, we had the same conversations when student athletes, at one point they couldn't work. And then when they were allowed to work, there's a lot of hand wringing around. There were going to be all these fake jobs and money, being passed under the table. Well, some of that exists regardless of the rules. So I think allowing NIL will just give students a genuine opportunity to earn money doing things that they like, enjoy, or have an interest in. I think the challenge is really trying to understand how we can manage or kind of deal with this idea of those NIL deals being inducements to pick a school. That, I think, that's the thing that worries me the most when it comes to, influence in either prospects coming in or transfers. Like that's the bad side of NIL. I think there's a ton of good. If we can figure out this inducement piece, I think the temperature will come way down.
From a legislative standpoint, are you concerned that are you guys, and maybe the ADs at other schools, are you guys having conversation with other Florida schools about our coaches being at a disadvantage of some sort?
No, not really. So a couple reasons. One is because there's a real fear around kind of antitrust and collusion and really working closely with other schools. So we don't tend to have those conversations. And the disadvantage, the hard part is nobody knows what information is real. So you hear There's, these multi-million-dollar deals everywhere. Well, is that true? And if it is true, I do think there's going to be some point where there has to be a return on investment, right? So you let a year pass, 2 years, and these big deals, the companies or the individuals, did they have a return on investment that will get them to continue to put that kind of money in the deals? I don't know that we're going to see that.
I think the biggest thing is like the fans are concerned with some coaches are able, or certain schools are able to navigate in NIL different in different states, like Florida and Texas have two totally different laws.
Yep. There is some concern around that. So the most obvious solution is that Congress gets involved and we have this set of rules and parameters that apply to everybody. I don't know that that's, I think people want that, where that falls and how we get there. There's a lot of really smart people working on it. I just don't know that that's, that's immediate. So we operate in the current landscape. I think as time goes on, we're going to get a little better at understanding what is and isn't in play, what you can and can't do, and what's real. I really have a sense that some of the angst and nervousness around NIL
You broke up on us, Lynda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said something so profound I stopped the show.
Yeah, we got you. I think your phone cut out while you were saying that very profound thing.
Sorry. I was like, I dropped a bomb and I've left them literally speechless.
That's hard to do with Nick on the show. Lynda, I want to ask you a question, and we live in a world where NIL legislation was kind of left pretty nebulous in terms of what could be allowed and what couldn't be allowed. And I think that they almost just said, hey, let's take this to court and let the courts kind of figure it out. Is that kind of the way that athletic departments are operating, or are they taking a more conservative approach towards, hey, this is what's written, so this is what we're going to allow? Or do we see, some schools trying to test the limits of what's allowed and what's not in hopes that it does get brought up in, court trials, court cases?
That's such a great question, because I think some of what we hear about big deals, and again, I don't know how real any of that is. Some of it is real, but I have my doubts about how valid the information is. And I think for most institutions, what they're trying to do is allow and support NIL activity to whatever extent you can, but not do something where, looking back, you're going to end up, having to invalidate seasons or declare kids ineligible or do things because you pressed too hard. So I think for the most part, people are acting sort of responsibly, trying to figure out where they can and can't operate. I still, and I'm not sure if this is the part that broke up or not. For me, the primary concern isn't about current student athletes. It's about prospects. And that's an area where I just, because that's not the schools acting, that is the others, right? That's anyone that wants to, do something for their home team and, get involved in the recruiting process. And I just think there's a lot, that's where the danger and some of just the bad dealings go. And I think you're going to end up with prospects saying, wait a minute, this guy promised me this and didn't deliver, or, companies saying, wait, I had a deal with this, young person who didn't end up coming. And now, so there's going to be a little mess there. And that's the part that concerns me. It's the prospects, not necessarily our current student athletes.
What your current student athletes, because I think there's a lot of questions, and I've seen fans say, well, Florida's not doing enough with NIL. And I'm like, well, they can't broker deals for guys. So can you just lay out what can the university do when it comes to NIL? Because, it was very publicized, the partnering with the Gator Collective, but just what can and can't UF as the UAA do when it comes to NIL with current athletes?
So we can support the activity. So we can, we have an institutional deal with some of the NIL, not the marketplace, but those who help with social media and branding and help you, steer student athletes in the right direction, make their information available so we can know a few schools, and that is the nugget that gets folks in trouble, is the institution setting up the deals, because it's really, when you boil it down, it's pay for play. You're arranging, just because you're not doing it, you're arranging money to end up in the bank account of a student athlete. And no matter what state you live in and whatever the circumstance, that is still not allowed. That is still against NCAA rules. So I know, there's this whole effort, people need to be really aggressive. Well, we can't put money into the effort. We can't broker the deals. We can help set the table, prepare student athletes, and let others know, our athletes are very interested, and here's how you can get in touch with them if you would like to engage with them in NIL.
Perfect. Well, Lynda, we appreciate your time. We want to be cognizant. We know that you're driving. We certainly appreciate your time this evening and everything that you've got going on. I know that they just added another responsibility to your plate in terms of helping UF find their new president, university president. So congratulations to you, and certainly best of luck. And what I would imagine will be a fun but also stressful time over the next couple months.
It won't be the 4 days that we found Todd Golden. So it might take a little bit longer than that, but no, I'm excited about it. And, for the university itself and also athletics, I mean, the university president is really pivotal to what we do. And Kent Fox has been so supportive. And so I'm happy to be a part of the group, and hopefully we can identify the next leader that also embraces, athletics as the front porch and a support for everything the university is trying to do.
Excellent. Well, Lynda, thank you so much for your time. Drive safely, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, I thank you for having me. Take care, you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Lynda Tealer, always great to have her on and have her perspective. But without further ado, we do have Jeremy Foley waiting. But with some ado in mind, do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time Sidekicks. Use promo code STADIUM at GameTimeSidekicks.com. Get the best vacuum sealed cups that you can find on the market. Like I said last week, I used one again this week. Still had to ice my cup by the end of the boat ride. So anytime that you can do that, you're doing things the right way. So GameTimeSidekicks.com. Promo code STADIUM. And without further ado, now we welcome former Florida Gators athletic director and athletic director emeritus Jeremy Foley to the show. Jeremy, it's a pleasure to welcome you this evening.
Hello, Dan. Hello, Nick. Long time no see. Corey, nice to meet you.
How's it going? Likewise.
Good to see you.
Well, Jeremy,
You going to play Augusta, Nick?
I think that's just for you guys. Chip Howard saw me in this hat at a baseball game. He goes, "They've really let the standards of who they let in those gates down." I said, "Yeah, they sure do."
Nick only got to go to a practice round, Jeremy. So, well, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's truly an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. Jeremy, I know a lot of people know your story, but want to go way back, all the way to the mid-'70s when you first came to the University of Florida, working in the ticketing office. What was it that drew you to Florida and then ultimately kept you around for the next 40 years?
Well, the thing that drew me here, Dan, is that I was getting my master's degree in sports administration at Ohio University, and the last component of the degree was an internship, and 25 students at Ohio University that spring. One guy went home without an internship, and that was me. And fortunately, in July, University of Florida called me and offered me one. So what brought me here was the only opportunity I had. And, so they brought me down here. And obviously, once you get here, as I'm sure you all know, and I'm sure a lot of your guests talk to you about. A lot of special things happen in this place, and good town, and obviously a great university. So no reason to leave. Obviously never left. Still here.
I love it. Well, Jeremy, that's a great story. Want to kind of talk your way through your time there at UF. Started off as an intern in the ticket office, then you became the ticket manager, and then you got to oversee tickets and game operations, and you become an associate AD. Then you become the interim AD. So over the course of 10 years, you go from a guy with no internship to the interim athletic director at the University of Florida. What kind of propelled you during those 10 years? I mean, obviously there was, some challenges and growth that the University of Florida Athletic Department was going through. But what got you to the point where over 10 years you go from being an intern to being the interim athletic director?
I get asked that question a lot, and I don't know if there's any special formula except, I just went to work every day. I liked doing what I was doing. I kept getting more opportunities. I kept getting more responsibility. Bill Carr, who was the athletic director at the time, he trusted me. And, that's when any employee wants to be entrusted and with more things to do. And so that's what happened. I was living in Gainesville, Florida. I was working in sports. That's all I ever wanted to do. Was working sports, and I'm at one of the best universities in America. And obviously, there were some challenging times back then, but the bottom line is I had a great opportunity. I was trusted by the people that I worked for, and I was having a lot of fun.
When the opportunity came to be athletic director, was there any self-doubt? I mean, you've watched people do it before, but it's a big step to be, in charge of an athletic program. Was there any, can I do this? Am I ready for this?
Well, when I was, to be honest, people always ask me, did you always have a goal to be an athletic director? And I never really did. Not that I didn't have goals. I just really wanted to do a good job for Florida. And I liked what I was doing. As I said, I was getting more responsibility. So, I never really thought about being an AD until they put me in charge back in '86 for 3 months. And that's the first time I ever thought about it. And I enjoyed sitting in the chair. It sounds kind of like arrogant, but I just like the fact that I could put my ideas forward. I had a chance to impact people and organizations. So, that was the first time I ever really thought about it. And then, they hired Bill Arnsberger, and I was his right-hand guy for 5 years. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do everything I could to put myself in position to, when the job came open again, to seek it and try to get it. And, so I prepared for it. So obviously, as I'm sure you've documented more than once, I made a lot of mistakes and failed a few times along the way, but I never doubted my ability to do it. I was excited to do it. It was an incredible opportunity. Certainly there's moments when you make decisions where you have self-doubts, and, obviously in reflection, there's decisions that I made that I wish it turned out differently, or maybe I'd done differently, but doing the job itself, I never doubted that I could, do it. And obviously I was given an incredible opportunity to do it.
Mr. Foley, you get the job. What's your first order of business mentally? Like, what do you have importance wise? Because there wasn't a lot of this culture that we know now, and the fans know a lot of what we have now, but these great memories weren't there. So what was your first order of business?
Well, Corey, back in the 80s, not a lot of Gator fans, some do, but a lot don't, that, the University of Florida had huge NCAA issues. In 1984, we were charged with more NCAA rules violations in our football program than any team in history. We won a SEC championship in 1984 to get taken away from us. It's the only time that's ever happened in the history of the University of Florida. And I was just kind of on the sidelines. I was involved in terms of, trying to provide information to the NCAA when they requested this receipt or this phone record. But I saw what it did to the institution. And then, 5 years later, we were back on probation again in football and basketball. Again, Coach Spurrier's first year here, 1990, we had the best team in the league, his first year out of the chute, and we can't be conference champions because we were on probation again. That's still grates Coach Spurrier. It will be till he takes his last breath. He had the best team in the league and couldn't be conference champions. So, the first thing, Corey, I want to make sure, I always felt like we had two strikes on us. And I saw not only problems it caused us, but the problems it caused the University of Florida. And so my first order of business is, we were going to live in a black and white world. We were going to be successful. We're going to work hard. We're going to do things the right way. And, if we didn't win, we're going to work harder. But when we did win, it was going to be done the right way with quality people. And, when we put the flag up or the trophy up, nobody's going to say, well, I wonder how they got that done at Florida, So we spent a lot of time changing the culture in terms of how we were going to live our lives and how we were going to follow the rules. And that became part of, a huge part of how we ran our shop around here.
Jeremy, I want to ask a question. The Gators really rose into prominence in both football and basketball in the 90s and obviously the 2000s, where really the ability to watch sports became a lot more ubiquitous. There were a lot more games on TV, and fans started to follow a lot more closely because you could watch every game without really any hindrances or maybe only listening on the radio at times. And I kind of coincide that with kind of the rise of social media too, and a lot of fans having takes, and maybe some are good, well thought out reason takes, and a lot are hot takes, right? So how did you balance over, the next 20 years where Gator fans were accustomed to winning, in football every year and in basketball every year, that when social media started to give a voice to everybody and maybe some sports were struggling, how do you kind of insulate the athletic department from, maybe some of those hot takes from infiltrating in and being confident in yourself and the team around you and the coaches that you have coaching for you?
It's a great question. And, something I talk about a lot. I do some mentoring right now with some coaches around the country, a few coaches here still. And, we talk about this. And, fortunately for me, the prevalence of Twitter was really just starting to come in towards the end of my tenure, right? Mm-hmm. That being said, obviously there were ways for, as you say, for fans to, give their hot takes. And, when Coach Spurrier left here and I hired Coach Zook, that was really the first time I'd ever gone through that type of criticism. I mean, it was pretty intense. It was because up to that time, Coach Spurrier is our coach, and we know what was being accomplished then, and we were having a lot of fun, winning a lot of games, going to Atlanta, winning national championships, conference championships. So it was, I'm not saying it was easy. Obviously, it wasn't easy, but the criticism when we hired Coach Zook was like nothing I'd ever experienced. So you asked me how I handled it. I didn't handle that one very well at all. It really, really affected me. I read it. I paid too much attention to it. I'll be honest with you. I thought at that time, these fans were weighing in emails. I said, they're taking the time to write, and hot takes is being mild. I said, well, I need to respond to them. So I'm responding to all these people taking the time to do that, spending, really kind of changed who I was. I kind of became a recluse. I didn't go out. I felt it. I didn't like being in restaurants. I wasn't tough. You can't sit in a chair like this, having a thick skin, and at some point, 3 or 4 months later, 6 months later, I said, something, the heck with it. I made the decision I thought was right. I spent the next 3.5 years, my staff did, working like hell to make that thing work. Obviously we had some success, but not what the Gator fans were expecting it to. And it was, but from that point forward, I never paid attention to it. And I mean that sincerely. I don't need to read. Emails came in, I would just delete them, not being disrespectful, but there was too many of them. I had a job to do. You can't do your job and respond to that type of stuff. I didn't need to go on talk radio shows and listen to it. When Will was 4-8, did I need to go read stuff to know that people were upset with us, upset with me, upset with him? Of course not, And it takes you away from the job at hand. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's one of the biggest challenges that the profession faces right now because it's real. Players are on it. Coaches are on it. I was talking to one of the coaches that I mentor, and he was telling me that he thought at one point he was paying too much attention to it, and he's worked really hard at changing. Not the coach isn't here, but he made the comment that that when you pay attention to that stuff too much and you read it too much and you internalize it too much, it makes you a lesser version of yourself. Okay. And, it's a great line. Okay? People are entitled to their opinions, and people aren't happy if they're unhappy. I get it. I'm a big fan too. I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. If there had been Twitter or emails back then when I was growing up, they would have heard me left and right. Seriously, that's what fans do. Yeah. You can't go down that rabbit hole. And there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much room in your head. So early on, to answer your question, Dan, I didn't handle it very well. After that, again, it's not that I didn't care, but I got the type of thick skin you need to sit in a chair and be a CEO, and just work like heck to make things as good as I could for the Florida Gators.
What would your email have said to Bill Buckner?
Something? I felt bad for him, so it wouldn't have been. Okay. I don't think I would have said anything, I'd have been mad at Dan Duquette when he let Roger Clemens go. You know, I mean, there's a bunch of trades they didn't make that I would have made. You know, I know how it works.
You've read enough of those emails that you could fire one off to somebody else in charge of a team that you like. You're like, I know the formula of these emails.
Yeah, you know what I should have done? I thought about it, and I told you delete. I should have printed all of them and made a book. Life of the chair. I mean, it would have been fascinating for everybody to see what people say.
It would have been like a CD. It had to come with a parental advisory sticker. Like, there is some strong language in this book.
Exactly right.
Mr. Foley, I think you was ahead of your time with trying to make every sport at the University of Florida great and everything school. That's one thing the fans brag about. What was your ideology behind that? I know we're in the South, so football has always been big. What made you want to make every single sport here a championship sport?
Of course, first of all, growing up, I played a lot of different sports. I like different sports. I like watching different sports. Obviously, I like watching football, but I was a lacrosse player, and I like watching tennis. I like watching golf on TV. I liked them all. Okay, but a couple things probably for my philosophy there. First of all, back in those days when the University of Florida was having some tough times with the NCAA and really getting some bad publicity nationally, right? Back then, during those times, there was one program around here that never caused us any problems. It was the women's program, right? And so I saw, the notoriety in a positive way that they brought, okay? And then at the University of Florida, as it relates to the women's program, I made this comment to someone the other day, during my interview to be AD, they asked me, well, what did I think about gender equity and everything? So I only know one way to do it. It's always been that way at Florida. Every president I worked for, every athletic director prior to me, women's athletics was important, all right? So as much as anything else, if you're going to run an intercollegiate athletic program, and you obviously understand the importance of football, especially a place like Florida, understand the importance of having a full stadium, going to big bowl games, selling T-shirts and, paraphernalia. I get that, all right? But at a place like Florida, if you're going to have an intercollegiate athletic program, you got to be good in everything. You can't be just good in football, in my opinion. That's one thing that drove us so hard when we hired Billy to change the culture in basketball, but to be recognized as one of the best athletic programs in America, I think you got to make a statement in March. I'm not saying you go back to back. It's hard to do that. But I'm just saying,
absolutely,
we would be in the tournament 1 year and out 2 years, and then won one and then out. We don't. Before Billy got in, we've been in the tournament 5 times in our history. I don't think you can be talked about as a great program. There's too much notoriety and too much attention paid to March Madness. So all that went into our philosophy, right? And if we were going to play it, we were going to try to win. I think people like that. I think our coaches like that, our athletes like that. That was our commitment. If we were going to play, we were going to compete at the highest level. That's why when we started, our soccer program, our softball program, our lacrosse program, we hired coaches 2 years before we started playing. We wanted them to come in here, start recruiting, okay? We built really nice stadiums right off the bat, okay, because we wanted to show commitment to these recruits. And, soccer wins the national championship 4 years in. Obviously, Becky Burley deserves 99 in her players, 99.9% of that result of the credit. But I think our commitment in the front end has something to do with it, all right? So here's the other thing I found in this business. And, I go back to what I said earlier. I understand the football and basketball needs to win. But, some in a place like Florida, football didn't have the greatest year this year, right? Obviously, some people disgruntled with basketball, and we had a coaching change. I mean, we didn't make one. Obviously, Mike moved on. But, you got gymnastics sitting there and number 1 in the country or 2 in the country, got a chance to win it. Mouse Holloway just won a national championship. Brian Shelton's number 1 in the country or 2 in the country defending national championship men's tennis. Tim Walton's running to the top 10. There's always another program to pick everybody up when you support everybody the same. So we thought that was a really important way to, again, for a place like the University of Florida to run its athletic program is to be as good as we could be in all 21 sports. They're all equally important to us.
Jeremy, I want to follow-up question, and this is kind of a little self-tire pump here. When I was a student at UF, I got to serve on the Title IX committee. That was right around the time that Amanda O'Leary and the lacrosse program was getting started. at UF. So I have kind of a two-part question. One, how do you go about hiring that first coach to build a program? Because it's so different than maintaining or building off of something that's already been created. So how did you go about, identifying those first coaches in soccer and in softball and in lacrosse? And then I guess leading from there is, what did you look for in coaches when you were looking to make that hire?
Well, the first question is, it's a great question because obviously we didn't have those three sports, so we didn't know a whole lot about them. Usually obviously I'm aware of what Scott's doing with his coaching searches now, the last two, and, how you have a list of candidates and you hone them down and everything. Obviously we play football around here. So, Scott, we, kind of had a feeling what direction we might want to go in. But, in all three of those cases, we threw a net out there. We put some ads out there and see who wanted the job. And, Becky was interested in the job, and Tim Walton was interested in the job, and Mandalary was. Obviously, other people were. And then you start looking at resumes, you start making phone calls. But, instead of maybe just going and getting somebody or going to, this is the person we want to target and go, we brought people in, and we had a number of interviews. And obviously, I leaned heavily upon my staff. Lynda Tealer was a huge part of, the search process around here when I was athletic director, and continues to be. But, I had a lot of people in the room helping us pick those folks out. And obviously, I think we did a good job with, all three of those candidates right there. And, Dan, if hiring coaches is a perfect science, maybe I'm, I never got any nasty emails, right? But it's not. And, but it's also the most important thing an athletic director can do, because, high quality coaches are, they're the ones that determine how good your athletic program is going to be. Athletes, you got to have athletes, of course, but athletes come and go. Billy Donovan here was 19 years. Roland, Sully's been here 14. I think Tim 15. That longevity is important when you have quality coaches. So you're looking for somebody who can win, obviously. You're looking for someone that can do it the right way. You're looking for somebody that maybe has something in their background that says to you, something? I like this about their makeup. Sully, for instance, was an all-ACC catcher. He was a pitching coach. College baseball to me is a pitching. You have the pitching, you got a chance to be in Omaha. As he pointed out to me, he was an all-ACC catcher first team, and Jason Varitek was second team. I like that, okay? But, Tim Walton got the ball on the last day in Omaha, the championship game. They gave him the ball. Billy Donovan played in the Final Four. You could just a little something that made, Rhonda Fain, was an Olympian and an All-American at UCLA. That's just another additional thing you look for. I like to sit in front of people and see the way they smiled. So if I could see them sitting in the living room and recruiting, you just start looking for those, and then you're just looking for good people.
Real quick, I got to ask this question. Did you like McElwain's smile?
That's one of those emails I got right there.
Corey sent you many emails, apparently.
He didn't put his name on there,
Yeah.
A podcast guy, but so you just try to get a sense, and obviously you talk to a lot of people, and it's not perfect science. Obviously, Corey, that's one of the examples right there. You think it's going to work, and you look at track records and you look at past experiences, but we hit some home runs and we hit some ground outs, and that's the way it works. And when you don't hit the home run and you don't hit with it, it causes tremendous turmoil for the university, for a program, for the coaches, for their assistants, for their families. That's why it's so important. But those things were never taken lightly. And as I said, we hit on some really good ones, and others didn't work out as we envisioned.
I want to ask if there's been it would seem from the outside, an emphasis on getting young coaches. I think Billy was, in his early 30s. Sully was young. Tim Walton, Urban was young when you hired him. Is that just how it kind of worked out, or were you specifically looking for men, women that were in the beginning of their careers, young and hungry, and then, embodied some of those other things that you just mentioned?
I was a big believer. This is maybe something I learned. Beverly Carney, you may know that name. Great track coach. Won a national championship here. The last time the women won a national championship in track, she won it back in 1992. And I was part of I didn't hire Beverly, but Bill Arnsparger did, but I was part of the process. And, we had a really competitive field, and she was really young. And I can remember people, she's too young and too this. And I can remember asking the question, how good can she be in 5 years? Mm-hmm. And the whole room went, well, 5 years, so that kind of stuck with me. And I think a lot of times hires get made on the day of the press conference. Everybody wants to win the press conference. I get that. Everybody does, because that gives you momentum, and momentum's good. Okay. Especially now with so many people having a chance to give their feedback. Okay. But, winning the press conference is not important to see. So we like to envision where they were going to be 5 years from now. I remember Rick Pitino told Billy not to take this job. All right. And we didn't think it was a good job. All we cared about was football. So I'm recruiting Billy Donovan and Rick Pitino. So I called Rick and I made the comment. I said, okay, he goes, expectations are too high. You were just at the Final Four 2 years ago. There's a lot of work to be done. I said, okay. So if I hire Billy and give him all the resources and give him a 5 or 6 year deal, 5 or 6 year contract, 6 year contract, what will I have 6 years from now? He says, well, you'll have one of the best coaches, not the best coaches in the country, right? And he was right. So it does kind of fit the model, right? There's going to be growing pains. This is a hard job. Another thing we like to get people in here that kind of, they become one of us. That sounds arrogant, but I'm not talking about like we're better than anybody else. But there's Corey, you mentioned a culture here. There is a culture here. Right. Culture drove our winning. All 21 sports are important. Respecting all sports, men and women. Liking each other in the building, working hard every day, doing things the right way. And, to get people in here and they stay here and that's part of their journey. And I also think when you take a chance on a young guy or a young woman, you build some instant loyalty. You took a chance on me. Somebody tells me that all the time. I would never have had this opportunity if you hadn't believed in me when I was an assistant coach, right? I think that builds some loyalty. This is a competitive business. Every time there's a job opening, everybody, is chasing other people's coaches and agents get involved. And I get you have to compensate them. I mean, I certainly was part of that world. But, you take a chance on somebody and you give them the opportunity to be successful, to give them a chance to be in that position. I think you have a built-in chance as long as you're taking care of them, paying attention, to keep them around for a long time. So, yeah, part of the model.
Corey brought up Jim McElwain, and we've talked about social media. What was that coaching search like with the way social media had started to become a beast? Because I imagine that was the first time you're conducting an interview and there's a media camera, long lens outside shooting through somebody's front window, taking pictures while you're trying to do an interview.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it began to escalate there. We're taking planes that aren't our airplanes, because that's what I did when I hired Urban, thinking that would work again. And there's some people sitting in their living room and they're tracking not plane numbers, but planes that at some point in time though, Nick, and I kind of tell my staff this, you just got to you got a job to do. And, what people are writing on, you got a job, you got to go hire a coach. And obviously you'd like to do that in secret. Obviously you don't want there to be any chance that the search gets, messed up because the whole world knows you're hiring them, and there's pressures to bear for the person to stay. So does it make it more difficult? Yeah, I mean, but again, it becomes part of the gig. And I told Scott, when obviously he's hired several coaches since I said, Scott, because I know Scott likes to be on Twitter, so, and I've told him this. I said, stay off Twitter when you're hiring a coach, dude. It'll distract you. And so yeah, it can make it more difficult, but I think at the end of the day, that's when you just got to revert back to the form. Don't read it, don't pay attention to it, and go do the job you're hired to do.
Was it always Urban on that hire? I know that's the year that Steve Spurrier was also leaving Washington.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Coach Spurrier, everybody was on a list. At the end of the day, Coach and I talked. End of the day, his comment was to me, hard to go back home again, and obviously right. I think he'd been in conversation with South Carolina, but even before we had opened. Urban was the guy that we targeted early on. At that time, and obviously, things have a way of, good fortune sometime. Bobby Petrino was high on the list. Bobby was doing things that, in terms of Gator fans, like out on the field, throwing all over the place, doing some incredible things. Bobby Petrino's a good football coach. Obviously, some bumps in the road in his career, but once I've gotten in front of Urban the first time, it was, it's kind of like I got in front of Billy the first time. There's no doubt in my mind that's the guy we wanted to hire. And obviously we had to fend off Notre Dame,
Yeah, that was actually my follow-up question was, what was it like to fend off Notre Dame? And, how did those negotiations, obviously, without, a lot of the details, but, was there a sense of, I don't want to say panic, but was there a sense of just lack of confidence at times, or what is your mindset when Notre Dame gets brought in?
That's a good word. That crept in more than once. But let me give you a little, tell you the reason I think that ended up okay in our favor. Back then, nobody let their football coaches go in the middle of the year. And, we did with Ron again, I'm not proud of that. I mean, as a decision we thought we needed to make, no point waiting. And what that allowed us to do is begin doing research on a lot of different coaches. And obviously did a lot of research on Urban. And Urban was having that 12-0 year at Utah, and we weren't going to bother that. I'd never try to bother somebody in the middle of their season. But the minute his season was over, I was in his house 3 days later. And I flew from my home in Vermont, and nobody was tracking me, and I flew commercial. And so, but my point is I was there. Okay. And we had a great conversation, and I knew he was really interested in our job. And then I was having lunch down with Chip Howard, obviously a right-hand man for me and Scott, down at the restaurant here in town, just lunch. And about 4 or 5 days later, after I'd first seen him, and scrolls across the TV that Notre Dame had fired Tyrone Willingham. That's when the panic set in, because in Urban's contract, the only school he didn't have a buyout for was Notre Dame. All right, he'd been at Notre Dame, et cetera, et cetera. I remember, we got our bill, and I came back here. I went right over to see Bernie Matchton, and I said, Dr. Matchton, I said, I got to go back to Utah and try to get this thing done, right? And so I got on a plane the next day and went out there and had another great meeting with him. But he ended the conversation. He goes, Notre Dame's coming out tonight. All right. So that's when the panic came in, because now you don't control it anymore. You don't control it. Urban knew what we had to sell. That's probably one of the worst night's sleeps I ever had in my life. And then the next day, I went over to see Urban. He said, walked across the room and shook my hand. He goes, I'm going to be a Florida Gator. And I just think the fact that we had so long to research it and had been out there twice, probably gave us a little bit of a leg up on Notre Dame. So I always tell people this day and age, I don't advocate for making coaching changes early. I don't, coaching changes are hard. Any coaching change is hard. But to try to do that after the last game of the year and then try to get it done before signing date and all the things you have to do, it's really hard. Any time you can buy is helping you on the next search. And to me, that's what's most important.
So, was that when you're saying, which I think I've always liked, what must be done eventually should be done immediately? Is that kind of where it came from, that year with Ron and then going and getting Urban?
Well, I get credit for coming up with that saying, and I've always told people, because I don't like.
Don't pass the buck. You're getting credit. It's a great saying.
But something, I have this little thing in my office. I have all these things that I had during my career, little sayings and everything. And there's a newspaper article that I found back when I first became athletic director. So that thing is, 30 years old. That's a Henry Kissinger saying. And Henry Kissinger said, and I have it underlined, I'm looking at it right now, what will be done eventually should be done immediately. And I always thought that, yes, and I always thought that made sense, because if you wait, let's just put it this way. And again, this is just an example. I'm not piling on, but obviously it was controversy that I let Ron go when he did. He recruited very well. Obviously, that, right? Right. It's not like we weren't going, we didn't go to Atlanta, but we were going to New Year's Day bowl games. We beat Georgia twice. I mean, so it wasn't, so maybe wait another year, okay? And if you do that, if it's, then Urban Meyer is at Notre Dame. And the history of Florida has totally changed, okay? So that's just an example of what should be done eventually, will be done eventually, should be done immediately, because at the end of the day, it's not about the individual, which sounds selfish, but it's not. It's about the organization. And you're trying to do what's right for the organization. And obviously, sometimes that means there's tough decisions. And obviously, my tough decision pales in comparison to the coach that has to hear it, have to deal with it, and their families. And I get that. I'm not minimizing that at all. But at the end of the day, I just think you got to do what you think is right for the organization, because I think that's what you get paid to do.
And then I will defend you. I don't know if you think I've defended you ever since I've been here. But there's a lot of people that will not give you credit for that Urban Meyer hire. And that was Dr. Machin. And he's the one that got that done from talking to people and from hearing your story.
Flex on him, Mr. Foley.
Give you formal credit. That was a great hire. I mean, he was the big name, but it's still a young coach who hadn't coached, in what we now know as a Power Five, and you're still kind of taking a chance. For all the message board posters and emailers that want to give somebody else credit, I want to say that was a great call and a great hire on your part, and just give you the credit that maybe the message boards don't.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm not. The fact of the matter is, I know how that all came down, but at the end of the day, the credit's irrelevant. Those 2 national championships are what really meant the most to the University of Florida.
There you go. Flex on them.
How much does a national? We hear about it all the time, but how much does a national championship just help the university? Not even the UAA, the university.
First of all, it's so hard to do and so much fun, but it gives you so much attention to the University of Florida. Back in those days, well, it's still the same. We haven't been in the CFP, but back in those days, you'd qualify for the BCS after Atlanta, which is the first week in December, and you're not playing until the second week or the first week in January. So for 5 weeks, all they're doing is talking about, Ohio State or Oklahoma, but also Florida. ESPN every night. In the same way with March Madness, the longer you go, they're talking about you, and it helps your university. It helps, they see your coaches, they see your athletes. They'll talk to maybe your president or maybe somebody who used to play here. It just gives you incredible exposure. So yeah, it's invaluable, and obviously it's invaluable for your alumni because it's a tremendous source of pride.
And what is it like? What is it like for you as an athletic director when Becky wins? When Rhonda won her first national championship? We were out in Omaha when Sully won his first one in 2017. When Tim wins it, what's it like for you as the athletic director to see those coaches win their first championship and knowing all the work that kind of what goes into it?
Yeah, if you ask me, obviously I was blessed to have an incredible career here, incredible opportunity, being part of everything I was part of here, and so many great things I enjoyed. But probably right at the top of my list of what did you enjoy most about your job was that right there, hiring a young coach. Obviously not by myself. I had people help me but once they get in place, helping them, supporting them, being part of what they're trying to build, and watching how hard they work to do it. And it wasn't always easy. Some of the trials and tribulations. I mean, Scully went out there how many times and didn't work out, and Tim went out there a number of times, didn't work out, and Billy lost the first time he played in it, and then got knocked out in the opening weekends. Everybody said, Billy's overrated. To see it all come to fruition and knowing how it came to fruition and type of effort it took to make it happen, it's feeling. It's incredible. It's a high that's kind of hard to imagine. It's one that lasts for. You can't last too long because you got to worry about the next year or the next season or the next team. But it is those are memories of a lifetime, and I was blessed to have it more than once. So like I said, I had a career that was incredible for that reason.
Speaking of careers, what do you think about your legacy? I called you the GOAT athletic director, the greatest athletic director of all time. What do you speak about and think about your legacy at the University of Florida?
I got asked that when I stepped down, obviously, and legacies are determined by other people. Obviously, I appreciate you saying that, but Nick has people on internet sites who think differently, all right? And they're entitled to that opinion. I get that, all right? I would think that the one thing that I'm obviously proud of all the championships, proud that we were never on probation. We did things the right way. Obviously, far from a perfect program, made a lot of decisions that didn't work out. But when probably my whole career, not so much my career as athletic director, but my whole career, when I first came to Florida was always, wait till next year. What if? Sleeping giant. Obviously, pockets of success. Women's golf has some incredible success. Men's golf, incredible success. Swimming has some incredible success early on. But certainly the program isn't what it is today. And I'm talking about a national perspective. are we the best athletic program in America? That'd be a little arrogant. But if you want to put the best athletic programs in a hat, you can put in who you want. Ohio State, Texas, USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, Alabama. You put whoever you want in there. But to have the best, Florida has to be in that hat. Okay. So having the program elevated to that stature and expectation that we're going to stay there and have that bar like that, that's, hopefully people will say, I had something to do with that, and that's, obviously I hired a coach who didn't work out. I hired this coach who worked out. Yeah. I have another thing over there on this bulletin board. It was on my office, said, don't ever take yourself too seriously, because 100 years from now, nobody will remember your name. All right. So that's the truth. I mean, at some point in time,
nobody's forgetting your name around here, Mr. Foley. You
anyway,
about that.
Yeah. So part of the line is I'm really proud of where it was and where it is today. That's a great thing for the University of Florida. And something that you asked me is one of the things that shaped me when I first became athletic director. Back then we were getting our teeth kicked in, probation twice, firing coaches, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that kept us all going around here is we knew this place could be really special, because how could it not be? Incredible academic institution, incredible town, incredible state to live in, incredible alumni base, incredible booster base who buy your season tickets, support you financially. We knew we had an opportunity to do some great things here, and that kept us going when things weren't as good as they needed to be.
Perfect.
Did you ever think like we're the only ones that think that? Because like you're on, like you said, you're on probation. It's wait till next year. It's just like no one else kind of saw it except for the people in that building, and you guys just never, your faith never wavered. And we have something special here. We just haven't, the dominoes haven't fallen yet, and they'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I'm not sure everybody saw that. I mean, we had a history of things not happening the way we wanted to. All right. Mm-hmm. I also will tell you, this is unequivocally the truth. The key component to all that and changing the dynamic and changing the way people felt and thought was in 1990 when we hired Steve Spurrier. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not only was he a winner, not only was he the golden child of Florida athletics, rightfully so, is that he came in here with no excuse mentality. People used to say we couldn't win in Jacksonville. We couldn't win there. Steve would say, we can't win there. It's called the Gator Bowl. That's what it used to be called, the Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? We can't beat Georgia and Auburn back to back. All he did is back to back, his first year, back to back, right? He's just a no excuse guy. His confidence, bred confidence, he walked, they say Steve has swagger. His opponents say arrogance. I say swagger, confidence, and everybody felt it. All right. He comes in right off the bat, and, we win 9 games the first year. Heck, we were conference champions. We just couldn't win it. Right. Next year, we won the first one ever. Next year, we're playing in the first ever SEC championship game in Birmingham. So the key to me, obviously, we hired Billy, and we had a belief in here and a mindset that we could be great. But, Coach Spurrier was the lead dog in making it feel like that could happen, in my opinion.
Jeremy, I want to ask you, so you officially stepped down as athletic director in 2016, and here you are, you're still at the University of Florida 6 years later as athletic director emeritus. I think there's a lot of, questions. I mean, and, more than anything, just kind of curiosity about what your role is now and your connection back to the University of Florida athletic department still.
Yeah, well, I think some people worry about that I'm, have my hands in things or too much that I shouldn't. And, from day one, first of all, the decision to step down was mine. Mm-hmm. 25 years. I don't say that, just mine. It was time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And, Scott Strickland and I have been friends for, I don't know, before he got hired here, 7-8 years. I was a strong advocate for his candidacy here. And I told him from day one, I said, Scott, I'm not trying to be the athletic director behind the curtain. If I wanted to still be the AD here, I still have years left on my contract. Mm-hmm. So I'm in an office nowhere near Scott's, but I'm here when he needs me. Any coach who comes by here that I hired a bunch of these coaches, and sometimes they'll come by to pick my brain in terms of, philosophy or culture or decision-making or some things they have to deal with. Coaches are CEOs, and sometimes they struggle with the CEO part. I help them do that. Every once in a while, Scott will deal with something that's maybe new to him in terms of Florida Nation or at the University of Florida. what did I do? How would I handle that? What do I think? And, and my advice to him is just his advice, trying to help him. And, I told you I mentor some coaches. I do that around. I probably got about 14 or 15. It's kind of an organic. It's not a business. It's just my way of paying it forward. I don't charge anybody anything. I just I have some coaches around the country who call me for the same reason, just to pick my brain. If they start complaining about their athletic director or something, then they're talking to the wrong guy. I'm not having those conversations, okay? Or if they start complaining about their budget, they're talking to the wrong guy. That's not what we talk about, So I'm doing a little bit of that. I'm speaking to some athletic programs. I'm going up to the University of Minnesota next week because the AD up there I've known for a while just wants me to speak to his staff and coaches about culture and winning and some of the things that not necessarily we did here, but what I saw Billy do or Urban do or Steve Spurrier do. I've done that with 5 or 6 universities. I work with a couple leadership groups around the country. I have a passion for trying to teach leadership. I do some teaching over, and I'm a guest lecturer over in health and human performance, mostly on leadership. And so Scott asked me to set up an emerging leaders program. We put these people. I'm not talking about Lynda and Chip and people at that level. They've been doing it for a long time. But we put some young bucks into leadership roles. But where do they get? How do they learn how to be a leader? And a lot of times on the training. So we put together an emerging leaders program where we do a program. We're doing. We've done 6 this year, and Scott asked me to set that up for him. So I've been doing stuff like that. So, but I'm also living my life. I have a home in Vermont, and I get up there when I can. And but something I told people, Nick, you were probably there, and you remember, I'll never cut the cord from being a Gator. This is my life's work, and I love the Gators. I love Gainesville, and but trust me, I understand. Right and wrong. I understand that I don't insert myself where it doesn't belong. I don't want to do that. It'd be unfair to everybody here. I very seldom get out of this little office unless somebody wants me to come down to their office, right? Because I think it's appropriate for, it's Scott's show. We let him run it. And obviously, he doesn't need much help. He's doing a great job.
Perfect. Nick, Corey, any final questions?
No. Give me your celebratory moment, 96 national championship, Steve Spurrier. Like, what was that like?
Incredible. When I first got here, all we ever wanted to do was win one SEC championship in football in 1976. And obviously we won one in 91, and now 96 we're national champions, obviously who we beat. I go to the press conference, and I usually take the bus back to the hotel. Well, it took forever. Everybody's doing interviews. I said, heck with this. I'm going to walk back to the hotel. Wasn't that long? Probably a 10-minute walk. You would have thought that, either Paul McCartney or Mick Jagger. I was walking down the streets, and when people saw me, you would not believe it. There were no bad emails that night. High fives and hugs and people crying. Everybody who saw me just couldn't have been nicer to me. And, of course, I was already on a high, so it's like I floated above the sidewalk. I was as happy as they were, but it was an incredible. That 10-minute walk is something I'll never forget. Never forget. Another thing is, people always ask me what was your favorite championship. We won 27 national championships when I was AD. They're very hard to do. All of them were special. That one is so memorable because I know what football means to this institution. I knew what it would mean to Gator Nation. I knew all the heartbreak, and to think that we were the national champions. Just for the Gator Nation, the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. And like I said, never forget it.
Somebody told me Coach Spurrier tried to go down to Bourbon Street that night, and that whole trip lasted about 4.5 minutes before he realized that he couldn't go anywhere. And I think he put a hat on instead of a visor as his disguise.
He puts on a hat and sunglasses. He thinks nobody can recognize him. Right? Yeah, I've heard that story too. I know he tried, but I think he turned back around. I just stayed in the hospitality room at the hotel. We had an incredible night together. And then, obviously it's fun celebrating with your fans like I just described. But at the end of the day, to celebrate with the people who go to work every day, all the coaches you're with, and, the Chip Howards of the world and Greg McGarry's of the world. I wouldn't trade those moments for anything. It's just those are memories of a lifetime. They really celebrating with the people you care most about.
It's crazy that this ride you've been on all started because you were a lazy grad student who hadn't secured an internship early enough.
My dad used to give me grief about it because growing up, I grew up in New Hampshire. I grew up a huge Boston Red Sox fan. I always wanted to work for the Red Sox. I always wanted to work professional baseball. That was my goal. But I had to finish this master's degree. He'd paid for it. So he said, son, you need to take this internship. And he drove me down here, and I complained the whole way down. I really didn't want to come. I came down in an interview here in August or the end of July. I have never been in such heat in my life. I'm going, what am I doing? But so I tell that now to students that you never know where the world's going to take you. And obviously the world took me on an incredible journey, and one I wouldn't trade for anything. One of my press conferences, I said I wanted to be the GM of the Red Sox, and I got to be the GM of the Gators. So it was a pretty good ride for me. No question about it.
Not a bad trade-off. Well, Mr. Foley, we absolutely appreciate your time this evening, hanging out far longer than we expected. We absolutely appreciate that. And thank you for everything that you did on behalf of the three of us, on behalf of Gator Nation. Thank you for everything that you did and your continued work to support the University of Florida and the Florida Gators athletic department.
It's my pleasure. I thank you for having me. It was fun going down memory lane. And, Corey, I'm going to go find that email you sent me, okay?
There's many. There's many.
It probably was me, man. I ain't gonna lie.
You guys are the best. Take care. We'll see you around the yard, okay?
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks for coming on.
Jeremy Foley, 40 minutes, man.
Bro, and he found out how many different aliases did Silk have emailing Jeremy?
Man, it depends on which hire, bro.
Oh man. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of that show. That's a hell of an appetizer to get us started.
Man, we got a pod.
Now you got a pod?
Yeah. Now we got a pod for a little while, but thank you, Jeremy Foley and Lynda Tealer, for joining us this evening. Really great.
It's like going on a field trip and coming back to do like math.
Yeah, the field trip didn't end at the end of the school day, right? It was one of those morning field trips.
You just got back from the Museum of Discovery and Science, and now you're in math class.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's give a quick shout out to a new sponsor of Stadium and Gale. You've heard of them before. We welcome our friends from Alumni Hall to the Stadium and Gale podcast. So if you are looking for apparel brands like Nike, Cutter and Buck, Columbia, Peter Millar, Champion, go check out Alumni Hall. They are on Archer Road in Gainesville, or you can visit them at alumnihall.com. Use promo code SG20 and get 20% off of your order now until June 15th. So visit alumnihall.com, use promo code 20SG, get 20% off of your order when you order from alumnihall.com. All right, boys, let's pod a little bit. Quick announcement. It is worth noting the Gators have now beaten FSU this season in basketball, football, baseball, women's basketball, and men's and women's tennis twice each. So congratulations to the University of Florida. Nick, it's another week of practice under our belt. We do have an announcement before we get into the actual football practices that you've been attending. That redshirt freshman tight end Gage Wilcox did suffer a career-ending injury, ending his time at the University of Florida. He will stay on scholarship through the duration of that time period. So we certainly wish the best to an 813 legend, Gage Wilcox.
He's a legend?
Well, just in the 813. I don't know. You know, he's just from 813. You say it about everybody from the 561.
It's just something. Dan's just caping for Tampa.
That's right. Just
I say it about everybody from the
I listen to your other podcast, Corey. All right, Nick, give us the a week in review of Florida Gator football practice.
Yeah, had the first scrimmage. Second scrimmage will be this week. I think what we're seeing right now is especially in some of the comments, and I wanted to get into this, that Billy Napier is making. I think you take over a program, you're given a group of guys, and the transfer portal is definitely changing things. You know, you really get like 2 different free agency periods. So you probably look at the depth chart and you haven't seen any of these guys play yet. But you look at the depth chart and you say, okay, well, we might need some help here. And that
Get
first
some
free
shit up outta
agency,
here.
that first free agency period, you're like, okay, well, we need a linebacker just because we don't have the numbers that we want. And then you go and you see guys on the field and you say, okay, we're going to be strong buyers in the next free agency period at several positions now that you've seen what guys have. And that's not to say that guys stink, that the recruiting was bad. You're running a completely different offense and defense, and you might need different skill sets to run that the way that you want to. It's not just going to be Florida, Notre Dame, LSU, Oklahoma. Any school that had a coaching change is going to be going through the same thing. So right now, I had Florida at 91 scholarships. If you take Wilcox and Emory Jones off, they're at 89, which means you have to have 4 transfers out of the program just to get to the 85. And then Billy said that they're going to be very aggressive in the portal, which means you're going to see a pretty large attrition number of guys leaving Florida would be my estimation. I think you're going to see that kind of across the country at these programs that have had, coaching changes. So I think Florida is probably on track to where they need to be. I wondered how much you get accomplished, when you're going into a scrimmage and you've only had 7 practices, so you haven't installed everything. I wonder how much you get accomplished in that first scrimmage versus the second, and then the third scrimmage, which is the spring game. And every college, college is different than the NFL. You're getting so much attrition with graduation, transfers, things like that. But to be a first year coach, first year in a program, you're going to have even more of those growing pains and installation. So you're on track. It's probably not where everyone wants the program to be, but you're 9 spring practices into a whole new era. So it's progress is a slow process.
Well, you hear about running back, man. I hear some good things about that room.
That's probably one of the more deeper and talented rooms, in my opinion, and I think I've said it on the podcast before.
It feels like this, right? Like every shift, like one room. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm sorry, Nick. It feels like that. Like remember when McElwain was leaving, we said our wide receiver room wasn't that good. And then Mullen came in, all those guys just turned out to be really, and in the league now doing good. Swain and everybody else on that roster. So running back room, of course, got infused with some talented guys, but we didn't get to see them until now. And hearing some great things. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think Lorenzo. I think we're finally going to see Lorenzo Lingard. And you always hear about guys in the spring, and then the season comes, and you never hear about him again. But I think this will be the time for Lorenzo Lingard. I think DeMarcus Bowman is another guy. Maybe they're just like trying to calm expectations down, because I was really high on Montrell Johnson. I mean, almost 900 yards as a freshman, 12 touchdowns. And I thought he would step right in and be the first team back. He has experience in this offense. He knows what to expect. He knows the playbook. But I think, right now with Naquan just returning to practice last Saturday in a very limited role also, just for individual drills, I think Lingard and Bowman are ahead of Johnson, and maybe the coaching staff saying, hey, listen, like he's still young. He's still 19 years old. He's
they also were like 5 stars coming out of high school. Like people
Bowman, like, Lingard, 5 stars. Listen, the message board doesn't forget that. They didn't forget that when Malik Davis and was getting carries, and where is Lingard and where's Bowman? How can you not give these guys the ball? I think you'll see all 3 of those guys really, and then 4, including Naquan Wright. And as I look at the tight end room, which now has 2 defensive linemen participating in the room, and as I look at the receivers, I don't know that I've seen a receiver room like this. Trying to be nice, a receiver room like this since I've been covering Florida. I think Nick, this is the worst receiver room I've ever covered. And then when you look at how deep the running backs are, and I think the offensive line will be good. I'm like the percentage of run to pass in my mind continues going up.
So the thing, though,
60-40, 65-35.
No, so if you want to get a thought off, I just got a question for Nick. Go ahead.
Go ahead, ask it. No, because I'm asking him a question too.
So Nick, I've got a question about tight end or about wide receivers. Pardon me. I've heard
we ain't
this.
got no tight ends.
Yeah. Besides the fact that we don't have any tight ends, I want to talk about wide receivers first.
Put Desmond there.
I'm sure Spencer would love that.
That's a jumbo package.
That's right. Nick, I do
tight
want
end
to
to
ask.
wide end. Got to change the name of the position.
About wide receivers. So it doesn't seem like Florida recruited poorly at wide receiver if you're looking at stars, right? And if you're looking at just the way that room is made up, there seems to be a very large gap between what people kind of anticipated about a lot of these guys to what you guys that are watching practice now, and then what you're hearing from practice now is there seems to be a super large gap. Is it a lack of development? Is it too many of the same guys? Is it just they didn't recruit a lot of speed, so they just kind of look slow? Well, what is it about the wide receiver room that just makes it look as bad as it's been in 10 years in your eyes?
Well, here's one. I think, and this is something even Shannon Terry, who started Rivals, started 247, started On 3, he's never going to say stars don't matter. He's created 3 businesses that hand out stars.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years is the number of 5 stars isn't really growing. The number of 4 stars are growing. Yeah. And I think if you're only looking at stars, like, hey, well, he was a 4-star. Okay, well, should he have been a 3-star? So I don't know if the recruiting rankings when it comes to 4 stars, especially low end 4-star guys, everyone wants to pump up that number. And where'd you finish? Are you in the top 10? And 4 stars are going to do that for you. So I don't know that the 4 stars of today are the same as they were 10 years ago. I think that pool has kind of gotten muddied a little bit. I don't know that it isn't development because no one was down on Billy Gonzalez's recruiting. And he certainly has a history of developing wide receivers. I just don't see the guys that Florida has right now. Like I don't see a guy that's quick in space. Like I don't know who you put in the slot. I don't see guys getting open.
There's no slot, man. Billy only got big ass receivers. So we got a bunch of big physical receivers. I don't even know if they're physical. They're just big at this point. I want to
be asked to block a lot.
Yeah. So they big. But this is my question, Nick. So if you do, like he said he wanted to get very active in the portal. So like how do you process these kids? Because if you got a room full of bad wide receiver and you want to make that room more explosive in the portal, you got to get rid of some people.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to do that, and this isn't just a Florida thing. I don't want to think like Billy Napier is acting in bad faith. This is football. You make things very clear to people, and listen. Sometimes a guy will be told, "Hey, if you want to play football, it's not going to be here. Here's the depth chart. Here's where you are. You're not going to go up unless these 7 guys ahead of you get hurt." And some guys will be like, I'm just happy to be here. My girlfriend's here. I like Gainesville. I like the school. I'm just happy to be here. Keep throwing me a jersey. And then you might get a conversation. All right, well, if you are happy to be here, we're going to use that scholarship that you're on for somebody else next year. You can be a walk-on on the team if you want to stay. The common misconception, I think it started when Will Muschamp said back when he was at Florida, we're going to be offering 4-year scholarships. And that's not a real thing for anybody. Tim Tebow, when he was on scholarship at Florida in the summer between his freshman year and his sophomore year, had to go and re-sign his paperwork to be on financial aid scholarship for the next year. So there's no such thing as a 4-year scholarship. For instance, Florida has 2 long snappers on scholarship, one that was recruited, one that was given a scholarship at the end of spring because it was available. Florida won't have 2 scholarship long snappers in the 2022 season.
They're just saving dogs some bread right now.
Yeah.
Like
and so it's basically a 1-year contract that you're on when you sign those financial aid papers.
Which is good information because the average person think this is like a 4-year deal. And these kids, man, you get a 4-year guaranteed education.
No,
and that's just not the case. It's not that type of
security. Not at all. Not at all. Those are conversations, like I said, they're like the portal is going to get refilled back up and it's not all going to be Florida. So those are conversations that are going to be had. Some kids will just see the writing on the wall. Hey, I want to play more. It's not going to be here. Do I have to transfer down or can I transfer within the conference or to another Power 5 school? Some kids are just going to see that, want to play more. one of Florida's redshirt freshman quarterbacks. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them decided to transfer, because if you're looking at quarterbacks, you're thinking, well, Anthony Richardson could leave after this year, but he could stay potentially for 2 more seasons. Jack Miller is still young and has a lot of eligibility. Billy Napier is going to be recruiting his guys. He didn't recruit me. He didn't sign me. So those are guys that might be on transfer watch. And then you get into a situation at quarterback where you want to have to keep taking 2. I mean, go back to John Brantley and Cam Newton, like taking 2 talented quarterbacks in the same class hasn't worked out well for Florida. Jeff Driscoll and Jacoby Brissett, like one of them, they both ended up transferring, but you end up getting one guy transferring. So some of those conversations will be hard. Some of those conversations aren't even a conversation. It's just a player coming to the coach and saying, hey, I want to play more. It doesn't look like it's going to happen here. The coach says, you're right. And then you part ways. So I think there's going to be a lot of those business decisions made, whether it's initiated by the staff or by the player.
So Nick, we're thinking that there's going to probably be 8, 9 transfers in. At least when I hear very active in the portal, those are numbers that I think. I don't know if I read that somewhere or if Billy Napier said that. Regardless, obviously Florida needs help in the wide receiver room. Obviously Florida needs help at tight end. Where else do you see Florida trying to utilize and trying to level up? Obviously, everywhere you're going to try to get the best player available, but where else do you see Florida really trying to level up?
You probably have to start, you can start eliminating positions. Like, hey, you're set at quarterback unless you have, 2 leave. You're set at running back. You clearly need help at tight end, even when maybe you don't need a transfer tight end because you're going to get Elksness and Odom back. You've got 3 freshmen coming in, but how quickly do they acclimate? If you took a transfer tight end, it would probably be like a graduate transfer, someone that's only going to be here a year. You don't need, somebody sitting on a scholarship for 3 years at tight end. I think when you start looking at defense, I would like some help at tackle.
Well, you skipped over wide receiver.
Why? Well, that's clear.
What are you thinking? I mean, I guess I want specifics from you, Nick. I need you to put yourself out there.
Hey, you gotta get more detail, bro. You gotta,
so you're looking at what? Probably slot. I mean, what are you thinking?
I think you need. I think you need someone like I've been told that Finley Graham is like purely a developmental guy, but you need someone in that mold, a shiftier, quicker slot guy. I think Florida has a lot of guys that are possession receivers, guys who are fast in a straight line. I haven't seen them be able to get open. So you're looking for something that you don't have. You're looking for a guy that can create space, that can get off the line of scrimmage without getting jammed and can get open. You're looking for a guy that you can get the ball into his hands in space and on a screen and have those bigger guys that you already have on scholarship and on the roster block for them. I don't think you have that. I think adding 2 receivers, like you have a pretty deep room. I mean, you've got Weston and Reynolds and Henderson and Shorter. Like you've got a bunch of guys in that room, but I think adding 2 or 3 receivers that are in a different mold would really benefit Florida. Defensive tackle, I think you need help, and that's long-term help because like Javon Dexter is not going to be here in 2023. Brenton Cox isn't going to be here in 2023. Princely Umalalen only has 1 more year. Like the whole defensive line is going to need some more guys, and whether that's in recruiting or in the transfer portal. And then I think at linebacker too, you're set with Ventrell Miller this year, but he's gone. I think
they'll be fine. I'm not worried about them recruiting. I think I'm worried about now more than like the future. I think they're going to be fine. These guys can recruit, right? I'm not going to worry about them getting bodies. I'm concerned about this year, what do we put on the field receiver wise, defensive tackle wise. I mean, the safety position is sounding like it's solidified. Do we got that figured out with Dean and Torrance? Yeah,
those were the 2 guys that you thought would start going into the spring, and they've done nothing to change that. Trey Dean was actively recruited by Patrick Toney, who is the safeties coach, to come back to school.
I mean, Emory said that too. So,
well, I think they looked at the quarterback position and thought, well,
I'm just saying,
Anthony
man.
can't play. Anthony can't play.
He's just saying, Nick.
They were looking at numbers. They were looking at numbers versus. I mean, there's a bunch of safeties.
He's not saying. He's just saying. You know.
I'm not saying. Just saying. Yeah, I think that's a totally different scenario and situation with Emory and Trey and their recruitments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think safety, you're set with those two. To me, I still want to see more, 11 on 11. What does the defense look like? Because do you have 6 defensive backs that you feel really comfortable with? Jadarius Perkins has been on crutches. I'm not sure what the injury is, but he's not practicing anymore. Avery Helm is having a good spring. I think,
nice.
Trevez Johnson is a guy that I've heard has had a couple interceptions. He's another guy. Like how many defensive backs do you feel comfortable with? If you've got Jason Marshall starting, Trey Dean starting, Rashad Torrance starting, that's 3. Who are the other 3 that you feel really good with? I think Jaden Hill, obviously, is still in a non-contact jersey, not going, full 100%, but I think he's a guy that we were all really excited about heading into last year before he tore his ACL. What will he look like coming back? Avery Helm's a guy having a good spring, but who are the other 3 guys that you feel comfortable with being in a steady rotation back there?
I think you named every position, but running back and quarterback, and offensive line.
And I think offensive line is good. You could get a transfer in there. I think right now,
sure,
left to right, Josh Braun being the 6th guy. So left to right, you'd have Richard Garage, Ethan White, Kingsley. Right guard is Osiris Torrance, and then right tackle being Michael Tarquin. And I think, Josh Braun is a guy right now only practicing at right guard, but has experience playing right tackle. Those are your 6. In a perfect world, you got 10.
Right.
And you've got a backup for every position. And in a perfect world, you probably have 11 because you probably go 3 deep at center. Jake Slaughter's a guy, and Jake Slaughter and Richie Leonard are the 2 centers behind Kingsley. So I think right now Rob Sale probably feels really good about 6 offensive linemen. If there's an offensive lineman in the transfer portal, I mean, you already took 2 in the transfer portal. But if there's an offensive lineman in the transfer portal that you think can give you depth right away, that would be another take they'd have.
I hear you. They have Torrance in the starting rotation. How is Waits looking?
Yeah.
I think he's developmental. Physically,
he's
very
huge.
impressive. Very impressive. He makes everyone else on the offensive line look small.
I don't know if he could block people though, Nick.
Yeah, he's been working. That's pretty
big. He's asking about job responsibilities. Yeah,
pretty big attribute to have. I mean, he's a freshman. I don't think he's ready yet. He certainly is the first guy you let get off the bus, though. When you pull up to the stadium, but I think he's developing right now, and he still needs to play with better pad level. I mean, he's all of 6'8". Needs to play with better pad level and play more consistently. But I mean, still a young kid, still developing. But I think I have been impressed with Rob Sale. He's got a little gruff to him, as a lot of offensive line coaches. Literally every offensive line coach not named Mike Summers that I've covered has had that kind of same.
Please don't ever utter that name on this podcast again.
Has had that same kind of gruff to him. But as I've been told, the offensive line room is a much happier and peaceful place. And they're enjoying the kind of coaching they're getting.
Yeah, and they seem to be getting a lot more, obviously, hands-on coaching. You have 2 of them, plus all your GAs and other folks that are unofficially providing coaching feedback to these guys.
Yeah. Very, very unofficially.
Yeah. Silk, I want to get your thoughts. We've talked about it briefly on this show, but it's a thread on On3 that I saw that's gotten quite a bit of traction. And it's the idea of Billy Napier as head coach, offensive coordinator, and QB coach. You think that's something that sticks around for year 2, or what are your thoughts on kind of having all 3 responsibilities?
I think it's a model that's kind of like you kind of set. You have to start firing people to kind of remodel this thing, right? I'm interested to see how it plays out because he's trying something different. I don't want to just like I remember when Urban Meyer came to the SEC and people thought the spread was stupid. So I want to see if he has something new as far as like the support staff and the brains that he have around the quarterback position or play calling, how he does things before I judge. But yeah, I was on record in the beginning saying I didn't like that he was OC quarterback coach. I wanted at least an OC in the building. Or in the booth calling calls. I don't know. In some fashion, I wanted an OC, and we really don't have one. I mean, they could probably give Rob Sell a title to maybe make people feel better, but I don't think that's what we're looking for as fans in that role. I think it's just something. It's a 3-year project. I think they're not doing this for a 1-year thing, man. I think people, as far as that part of the program and that nuance of what Billy got going, people have to be a little bit patient. With that, that's what it is. We have to wait and see what happens because we don't know. People are complaining right now as far as like recruiting and is that affecting our quarterback recruiting? Him being OC quarterback coach, one stop all. We don't know. We just got to watch it all play out, right? I don't want to just guess shit.
Nick, do you
part
want
of
to
that
guess
is prognosticator is what the job title for guessing shit would be. You are a prognosticator.
Yeah.
So prognosticate over the crowd right
shit.
now.
Get some shit for us.
It's a lot. It seems like that's a Thanksgiving plate and not a Vari plate. That's a full plate of responsibility for Billy Napier. And is it too much? Because this is a bigger level. But he's seen it happen, and
it's how he's managing it. I don't think like it's more work. It's how he's delegating.
Well, you've got 876 people in the building.
Exactly.
To delegate some of the responsibility.
We got to see if the way this whole whatever he's trying to build is different than we've seen staffs built. So we got to see if he's on to something. You know, like he got a lot of staffers, so we can't think that he has a lot on his plate.
People that innovate. People that innovate are usually called crazy while they're innovating, and we'll see if he's crazy for doing all this or if he's an innovator. And my guess, my early money would be that he's innovating, and you'll see a bunch of other programs start to add these people. Like I said, it's when you get into the analysts and hiring analysts, it's the wild, wild west. There's really no limits on how many you can have. There's limits on can they coach on the field and things like that? But then how many NCAA, investigators are being sent to Florida's 11th spring practice or Georgia's
up with LSU right
spring
now.
Practice? LSU is keeping
them busy.
So that's interesting to me. But the Steve Spurrier quote always sticks out to me. He said, if you're hired as a head coach because you were great at calling ball plays, don't give that up. You got the job because you were good at something, and then you're going to get that job, that dream job, that next step, and be like, all right, well, that's too much responsibility. I'm going to give it to somebody else because, I forget the president. You'll remember, Dan. The buck stops here. The buck stops here. It's whether you win or lose, it's not going to be somebody else's fault. That falls on the head coach's desk.
Sure.
Is it more responsibility? Yes, but you've also, like you said, Silk, you've got a bunch of people that are delegating recruiting responsibilities and scouting responsibilities. That's all being delegated.
Yeah. I think that's a Harry S. Truman quote, which just a bit of a factoid, Nick. His middle name is just the letter S. There's no period after it. It's just the letter S. He thought that he needed to add that to add some more distinguishing features to his name. So go ahead.
I was gonna say that sounds like some old white money kind of thing. Like there's not even a real name. It's like, hey, we needed an initial.
So go ahead with your thoughts. I don't know the origin story behind it.
If I thought Billy was, it's just on paper. Like I think people, in my mind, if I thought he was handling the OC, the quarterback, everything by himself, I would think he's nuts. But that's not what I think. So I just want to see, like I said, if what he's trying to do, if it works, or if it doesn't. And that's it. That's where we at with it.
And how much of the game planning is his versus how much of it is a collaborative effort. And not to give PTSD, but John Hevesy, Billy Gonzalez, and Dan Mullen a couple times said, we all speak the same language, and it's like you don't even really need to have a big conversation when it comes to a game planning because we're all looking at it the same way. And there's some new people on staff, but Darnell Stapleton was with Billy the last 2 years, I think, at UL, or at least 1 year. Rob Sale has worked with Billy at a number of stops. I think you've got some familiarity with, hey, we know what coach likes to do. We know our position groups, and we can tell him, hey, our position group can't do this right now.
Sure.
And I think that will be a collaborative effort. When it comes to game planning, I think, the ultimate say on game day, X's and O's and calling plays in, I think that will be Napier. But I think that it's not like Billy Napier locking himself in the office and doing everything on his own.
Yeah. Cam put something in there that the S in Harry S. Truman stands for silk. So
there it is. Never mind.
Harry Silk Truman. I love
it. Thanks for the fact check, Cam.
Yeah, thanks, Cam.
I got to vet Harry Truman before you could just throw Silk in his name like that, Cam.
I don't know if you and him would align on a lot of things. So
I have to vet a deceased ex-president before he can use my nickname. Okay.
I just had Foley on the show, man.
Yeah. I got you. It's all about legacy, right? Oh man. I do want to announce a couple hires. I don't think that we've done so yet. Jordan Harold comes back. He came back a few weeks ago from Ohio State. He was previously with Florida.
Oh, shit, he back?
Yeah, went back to Ohio State for about 6 months and then back to the University of Florida. As I believe
I didn't unfollow him, so we cool. Sure.
Yeah. Assistant Director of Creative Media, Football Recruiting. So welcome back, Jordan. I didn't think that we mentioned that. So Sierra Griffin is joining Billy Napier's staff as an on-campus recruiting coordinator. And then Duran Wilson is going to be joining UF as a quality control coach, working on cornerbacks. He previously worked at McNeese State, where he was the defensive coordinator. Previously to that, he was at University of Texas San Antonio, where he worked with Patrick Toney during his first 2 years at UTSA. So welcome to the team. And then Sierra Griffin comes to Florida from Auburn and the University of Miami, where she was a football creative intern. Want to mention, Nick, I know that there's a couple other names that are associated. I want to see if you had any update, and feel free to just say no and we can move on. I know that there was some connection about Larry Williams potentially joining the staff, and then potentially Russ Callaway as well. So I was wondering if you had heard any more about those two.
No.
Okay, perfect. So speaking of recruiting, Nick, we did have a lot of recruits on campus this past weekend, but the internet was kind of taken by storm on Saturday night by Trayon Webb, who's the number 5 ranked cornerback on On3, tweeting, "Why not Florida?" He was asked by the coaches, "Why not Florida?" It really took off, really seemed to kind of galvanize a message amongst really everybody in Gator Nation. Any thoughts? I mean, what would you guys think as the tweets started rolling? Silk, I know you were at a concert, but you probably saw the next day.
I'll go first. Silk will probably have a bit.
Oh, go ahead. My bad. I thought you
was
throwing at me when you said Silk. My bad.
No. I'll go. I said I'll go first, so because you'll probably have a longer thought than I will.
Probably not.
I thought it's fine. Like there's a bunch of things that you try in recruiting that work, and you don't know kind of what goes on behind the scenes. But I saw a lot of people complaining, like, why is Florida doing this? The University of Florida shouldn't have to do this for one recruit.
What is a legacy? I'm so confused.
I'm contractually obligated. I spend a lot of time on message boards. I spend a lot of time on social media. There's a lot of angry people.
About why not Florida? Like, what am I missing? Tell me what I'm missing so I can be mad too. I like being mad.
I'm missing it. I like being mad.
Yeah, I want to be a mad fan too, but I don't know what I'm missing. So a player tweeted, "Why not Florida?" and then like the coaches and everybody else kind of got involved. I don't understand.
People just thought it was gimmicky. I guess I thought, yeah, it's whatever.
No, it's recruiting, man. It's social media. It's trending. You got to do that shit, man. That's a part of it. It's a part of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, what are people talking about? This has been gimmicky and corny. Like, I don't know what they've been. You've been seeing Dabo recruit kids, like the goofy stuff he does. Harbaugh had a sleepover with a punter or some shit. Like,
Well, I mean,
people are
that's
doing
just
wild
solid
things,
shooting right
man.
there. You do what
Nick,
you
Nick
do what
would
you
do
gotta
that
do
for
to get the
free.
punter. You do what you got to do to get the punter.
Nick's knocking on the doors of punters right now, saying, "Hey, you want a roommate?"
I'm just trying to get that all expenses paid vacation to Australia. It's probably not called a vacation, that work trip to Australia.
Oh man, I guess my thoughts on it are, Silk, you make a good point. I don't know why everybody was kind of up in arms about it. They thought it was goofy,
It's
whatnot.
social media, man.
But it's social media, and these kids want it. They want the retweets. They want the edits. They want everything about it. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't affect you. But I was surprised to see how up in arms some people were. And I guess it goes back to the Jeremy Foley hot take thing, right? Like everybody wants to get their take off. But it does seem like there was a weird, I don't know if it's like a PTSD thing or what it is, but it does seem like anytime Florida tries to do something to kind of either galvanize the fan base or something, there's that loud but maybe small group in the corner of the office calling it weird. So but definitely, something that took the internet by storm Saturday Saturday night and Sunday.
What did the 16-year-old kid say? They seemed to like it, right? Like
He retweeted everything, I think.
Yeah, and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
bro.
that's all that matters.
Bunch of mad 40-year-olds don't we have to recruit them as fans. They're already fans. We're trying to get these players, man.
Yeah. I do want to make an announcement. Lake Gibson's head coach, Keith Bearfield, and you're probably wondering why we're talking about this. Florida does have a couple of major recruits that they're recruiting from Lake Gibson, including five-star Cormani McLean. But Lake Gibson head coach Keith Bearfield, who worked with Billy Napier at the University of Louisiana Lafayette as a quality control coach, I believe. It was let go today. A lot of people are connecting him back to Florida. Nick, I'm not sure if you've heard this news or if you've done any digging on this news. It seems odd. Like Gibson goes 8-4 last season. Seems primed for another good season. You think there's a connection back to UF there, or?
Yeah, I'd like
violations or some shit. You got right.
Yeah, I think
those are the kind of guys I need. Coach Pira had him too,
Yeah.
But I don't think he was. I don't know where the rumor came from with Florida to be like. I don't know how true that is, but I don't know how pro Florida he was at Lake Gibson. I think Miami felt good about that coach being there. Is what I'll say.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I know nothing about it. Just something.
That's why it confused me. Then when the Florida, the Florida, him maybe coming to Florida as a coach kind of confused me when that popped up as a rumor on Twitter or whatever. Because Miami felt good about like Mario and all them. Everybody, that whole crew felt good about him.
In terms of being hired at Florida or joining Florida staff, I think you'd have to look into why you were, like you said, Dan. It looked like you had some good things going at Lake Gibson. Why were you not retained there? And do some back channeling and figure out what's going on there before you get hired on. Certainly.
Can we still recruit there? If we hire him, how's that rule work? I seen some people arguing about that.
He would not be an on the field coach.
I also think that there's a 2-year rule, is my understanding, about being able to, if you get hired, from a high school, about talking to your players directly. Or recruiting from that school directly.
So would he not be able to? If Cormani McLean comes on campus, hey, you got to keep him away from Cormani.
But the school can still recruit at that high school.
Yeah, that individual just can't have contact. Which if you run into each other in the football tunnel, if you run into each other on the football field of practice, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we know how the game's played. I was just kind of curious. I saw it on the timeline today, so I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts if you had heard anything.
If he gets fired for anything egregious, I don't think Florida's finna hire him. It's my take, but I don't know why he got fired. So I did see some people poke ways, shout out to them guys out of Polk County report. It was some type of violations.
All right. Well, we will stay abreast to Lake Gibson football over the next couple of weeks. Tyree Appleby, 5th-year senior, former Florida Gator point guard, has announced that he will be transferring for his final year. I think that was expected, but the official announcement of him going to the transfer portal came out today. I want to give a congratulations to former Florida Gator golfer TJ Vogel, who won the Corn Ferry Club Car event this weekend. So congratulations to TJ Vogel. Men's track and field really getting into the heart of their season, currently ranked number 3 in the country. So continue to watch out for them. They should show out. Their 4x100 team and their 4x400 team, I believe, are both slated for national championships themselves. Florida Gator golfer Ricky Castillo is leading, and so are the Florida Gators men's golf team after day 1 of the Calusa Cup. Day 2 is today. It's currently under a lightning delay, so I would imagine that will finish on Tuesday. In softball news, the number 7 Gators beat number 17 Auburn to win the Road Series. And then in women's tennis, number 16 Gators beat Vanderbilt 6-1. So a lot of exciting things. We already talked about gymnastics. Men's tennis is doing really well. Got a lot of fun things to watch over the next couple of months with Florida Gators athletics and potentially winning a couple national championships. Anything else that you guys have on the agenda? If not, Silk, we'll get into a Manscaped ad read and take us home with Song of the Week.
No, that's all I got. Whose Song of the Week is it?
It's yours, my friend.
Oh, snap.
I thought it was last week.
Nick tried to steal my song, bro.
Was it? I thought I was.
I don't know, dog. I'm on like 10 pods. I don't know, bro. I feel like I choose a song like every day, man. I apologize.
Nick, do you want to choose a Song of the Week this week?
Yes.
Yeah, I ain't prepared. I'll get it next week. I ain't prepared.
All right,
Nick got it. Nick sounded like he did a lot of homework for this song.
I've done none. I was going to go with Currency just because you had him on. It seemed topical. So
there you go. I'll let you choose this Currency because I would have went with a Currency song. So I'm gonna let you choose it. And I'll do mine next week. Shout out to the great folks at manscaped.com. Make sure you use coupon code SG20 for 20% off free shipping. It's Lawnmower 4.0 season. I don't know if y'all boys still slacking, but summer is abreast. I like that word, Nick. I mean, Dan, you just use it. I like summer's abreast. And if summer's abreast, you probably need to shave your nuts. Get them clean, get them smooth. It's Speedo season. Can't be going to the beach with the Harry Larry balls. So get it right, fellas. We got the Weed Whacker. Weed Whacker is not everybody's go-to thing, but definitely want to get it if you got AirPods, man, because, it's a tight fit. If you got hairy earlobes, we got a Weed Whacker for you to clear everything up. Also, the soap is the shit.
So is the shampoo. I know it doesn't apply. It's barely applying to me these days, but
we'll get you a shampoo ad read, Dan, if that's what you want to get off. But I only use the Manscaped body wash when I'm about to go out, man. I don't use it to get into bed. If I'm about to go out, night on the town, I was about to go to Currency. I had to pack that Manscaped body wash with me. You know what I'm saying? Got a little bit. It's like Axe body wash. Got that perfume smell on it. Great stuff. Chapstick is fire. Keep your lips together. All the important parts is what Manscaped take care of. So, fellas, be sure to take care of your family jewels and the rest of your body parts, man. We got the tools for your parts. Coupon code SG20 for 20% off.
Or 20 SG.
Or 20 SG. Yeah, try that one. My bad. Shout out to Alan Horn, too, man, since it's scrolling down there. Home Field Apparel. Nick, what you listening to?
Alumni Hall, Game Time Sidekicks, all of them.
Gang.
All right, we're gonna go with bottom of the bottle.
That's a suspect one. I'll give you that one. It's okay. It's okay. Currency trade. It ain't legendary one. It's all right.
I'm new to the Currency game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
real cool vibes, man. You got it's a big catalog. I'll tell you that.
He was on a track with Lil Wayne back in like 2013. One of the Carters, maybe.
He was signed to Cash Money and No Limit. I think he's the only guy to do that.
I think I would have gone with Scottie Pippins. Just looking through my list now. But that's okay, Nick. It's your song.
I'm new.
It's okay.
Hey, man, just go on a crazy deep dive, man, if you got some time.
I was going to go with Post Malone's new song. But I felt the Currency vibe. So it was a game time decision.
I like it. I ain't mad at it, man. Great crew, man. I enjoyed being around them guys this weekend, man. My type of people. Feel me?
Absolutely.
Kush
I do.
was big.
Yeah.
Kush was very big, I would imagine.
Absolutely, man. Hey, same corner, same time, man. Huh?
The Kush was large.
Enormous.
All right, Nick.
Enormous.
All right, Nick. That's the end of our show.
I always have to derail us towards after hour 2. It gets weird.
Yeah, it does. Same corner, same time next week. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Lynda Tealer, and of course the GOAT, Jeremy Foley. And we'll see you boys next week.
Hey, real quick, any Gator fans in the Panhandle in Tallahassee, pull up to the we having a tailgate at Doak for their spring game. We're gonna make that place smell like the projects. It's already the projects, man. But pull up in your royal gear, in your Gator gear. Come with some presidential stuff on, your best cologne. I'm gonna be out there. We're gonna be kicking it. That's it.
Perfect.
Same corner, same time.
Same corner, same time. See you boys next week.